I noticed what you stopped saying. You called it nothing. I couldn't. Some people think overthinking starts when the conversation gets complicated. It doesn't. It starts when the conversation gets quieter. The people who notice every small change in a text message are usually the ones who sleep the least. Not because they're dramatic. Because they've spent too many nights staring at things nobody else would notice. The reply that suddenly comes 30 minutes later instead of 5. The missing emoji. The period at the end of a sentence that never used to have one. The good night that became night. The way someone's messages slowly start sounding like they're talking to everyone instead of talking to you. Most people read words. They read patterns. And patterns are hard to ignore once you've learned them. Especially at 2:17 a.m. Especially when the room is dark except for the light from a phone screen that keeps waking up every few minutes because you keep checking if maybe there was a notification you somehow missed. There usually isn't. But you still look. Just in case. The strange thing is that they rarely tell anyone they're paying attention. Because saying, I noticed you used to send 3 texts and now you only send 1, sounds ridiculous out loud. Saying, I noticed you stopped asking how my day was, sounds needy. Saying, I can feel the distance growing before you've even admitted it's there, sounds impossible. So they stay quiet. They act normal. They reply normally. And meanwhile their brain keeps collecting tiny pieces of evidence nobody asked for. The worst part isn't even the change itself. It's not knowing whether the change is real. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they're tired. Maybe nothing happened. Maybe everything happened. The mind keeps moving between those possibilities like someone pacing back and forth in a hallway, never arriving anywhere. That's why sleep becomes difficult. Not because of heartbreak. Not because of sadness. Because unfinished questions are loud. A person can close their eyes and still see the conversation. Still remember the exact wording. Still wonder why a message felt colder than yesterday. Still replay a simple okay 15 different ways. The people around them don't understand. How could they? From the outside, everything looks normal. The chat is still there. The replies still come. Nothing dramatic happened. No goodbye. No fight. No explanation. Just small shifts. Tiny movements. The kind that only hurt when you're paying attention. And they're always paying attention. Sometimes they'll unlock their phone without realizing it. Open the chat. Read the same messages again. Not because they're looking for romance. Not because they're obsessed. They're looking for certainty. They're hoping they'll suddenly find a sentence they missed earlier. Something that explains why things feel different. They never do. The messages stay the same. Only the feeling changes. And somehow that's worse. Because you can't point to a feeling and prove it exists. You just carry it around. Quietly. The people who lose sleep over text messages are often the same people who care carefully. Not loudly. Carefully. They remember things. The way someone types when they're excited. The way someone says I'm home. The extra letter when they're happy. The shorter answers when something is wrong. They notice because attention has become a habit. And habits don't turn off at midnight. So while everyone else is sleeping, they're lying there with a phone face down beside them, telling themselves they don't care. Then turning it over 5 minutes later. Just to check. Just once more. Just in case. The message usually doesn't come. Or maybe it does. But it doesn't say what they hoped it would. And that's enough to keep them awake a little longer. People often call them sensitive. What they don't see is the exhaustion. The constant measuring. The endless wondering whether they're imagining things. Whether they're reading too much into it. Whether they're the only one who feels the conversation changing. Most nights, they convince themselves they're overthinking. Then a few weeks later, the distance becomes obvious. And they realize they weren't imagining it at all. They were simply the first person to hear the silence arriving. Long before anyone else noticed the room getting quiet.